Tonight, President Trump declaring the coronavirus a national emergency. The move freeing billions for the fight as America contracts to slow the rapidly spreading pandemic. The number of cases in the U.S. rising over 2,000, at least 49 deaths. All schools closing in a growing number of states. Millions of students impacted. Houses of worship suspending services. Landmarks, theme parks, sporting events, and concerts shutting down.
Brian, thank you. There are a lot of fast-moving developments today concerning the coronavirus.
Anyone who has symptoms, who is not feeling well, and believes that they may have coronavirus or COVID-19, to ask your provider for testing.
That the cases will keep coming.
Yeah, so your name is?
Justin.
Cool. Alright, so how did COVID immediately affect you as soon as it was declared a national emergency back in March of this year?
It for real didn't at first. It was like 2 weeks off school. I get to chill. For real. It was just, I got to chill for 2 more weeks, you know, long spring break.
That's really what you thought?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then 8 months down the line, it sucks. It is terrible.
So when did it start to be like that?
Around the end of May to start of June, when I really set in, this is not going to end for a while.
For a while, yeah. So, I guess immediately, as soon as, quarantine started, you weren't really that phased.
No.
First, you were just excited
3-4 months, it was fine.
Okay. So I guess, in terms of, schooling, how your schooling went, how was that?
Absolutely terrible. Online school, at least in high school, does not help whatsoever. It does not teach you anything.
You don't you don't get anything from it.
I do not get a single thing from it.
Okay. So it's harder for you to learn online than it is
most definitely
in person. Which parts of your life did you notice the most change in due to the virus?
Definitely my relationships with people. Being in quarantine, being at home all the time, isolated from basically everyone. It really shows a person's characteristics.
Did being in quarantine affect your mental health?
Mine, occasionally I would get weeks, month, even just incredibly sad and lonely. Just in my room, not wanting to do anything.
So then I guess I would ask, how do you keep in touch with people now?
Through, if I have their number, it's FaceTime, stuff like that. PlayStation party chats with the boys, stuff like that. Playing games. Okay.
I guess that leads into the next question. Did technology help or hinder your management of these changes?
That's a mixed question for me. Due to schooling, it definitely hindered that part, but with social interaction, it helped a little bit, but not exponentially.
Right. So then, when you have to, ask a teacher a question, is it
I don't.
But if you have to, I guess, is it much harder?
If I have to, most definitely. Because chances are I'm not going to get a response back because
for a long time, yeah.
150 other kids doing the exact same thing because we don't get to work. And it's not just in class where I have an hour and 30 minutes where I feel freely ask the teacher a question.
Did it immediately help or hinder? Right out of the gate?
No, it didn't immediately hinder or help.
It was just kind of you were just going along.
Yeah, until June, I was just chilling, playing the game.
Okay. So then now, I guess that goes back to what you just said. It has helped. Technology has helped you maintain your friendships.
Socially, yes. Economically, or academically, excuse me. No, it is nothing but hinder me.
And how much time would you say you spend on devices now that we're 9 months into the pandemic?
I'm pretty much on a device all the time, unless I'm at work.
Has that changed from prior to the pandemic?
Most definitely. Prior to the pandemic, I could go hang out with friends. I'd be at school, learning, stuff like that. Now it's pretty much, this is friends.
And I guess because you're on technology a lot, you use apps, websites, etc. What app would you say you use the most, or which websites you use the most?
I'm definitely on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube the most.
The most? Okay. Is there anything you would change about the interfaces for those? Is there anything that makes it harder to use those things? Or that makes it, like, not even harder, that makes you want to use them more?
There's stuff about them that makes me want to use them less. Like, Twitter keeps on banning all my favorite accounts. Instagram adding that shop feature and just kind of messing everything up. Really, it just makes me not want to use the app. Snaps update where I just stopped receiving notifications that really messed me up too.
In terms of schoolwork, like academically, whatever website you're using for that, Google Meets, Zoom, whatever website, is there any interface changes? Google Slides, literally anything you use for academics.
I use a website called Canvas or Instructure, and nothing has changed about it.
But would you change anything about the website?
I wouldn't change anything about the website itself. I would change how they're doing online schooling for high schoolers.
So what do you think they should do differently?
Definitely have set times, like start at 7:30, end at 2:30, 2:50, where you're in a Zoom call with people. Then you have like an hour-long break for lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to be in a Zoom call with a teacher.
So you don't have Zoom calls?
Google Meets, nothing.
Okay. So pretty much you're,
On my own.
on your own teaching yourself
Yes.
via like lessons. So I guess they would call that, what they've been calling that for college students is asynchronous classes. So that means you pretty much just do it on your own. So that's what you guys are doing, are asynchronous classes.
And do college students like it?
It's a mixed bag.
Because this sucks. I absolutely hate it.
So it's like it's been a real struggle for you.
Unbelievably so. Like, I was never the best student. I was always a BC student.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd get A's in classes I really liked. I'm failing every single class.
Because everything's switched up.
Because everything is absolutely screwed up.
Okay.
Maybe if I had Zoom calls for every period, it'd be a different story. I'd probably have D's, C's, but not failing.
So I'll be answering questions similar to the questions that I asked my brother. So the first question is, how did COVID immediately affect you as soon as it was declared a national emergency back in March? I, like most people, can remember that day. I think school had already been closed for the foreseeable future, or maybe the next 2 weeks, I think it said in the email. It didn't really affect me very much personally. Immediately it didn't affect me. As the weeks wore on, I definitely started to struggle a bit more in school than I ever have, just because of the drastic change in how I was doing my schoolwork and how I was learning. The second question is, which parts of your life did you notice the most change in? Obviously, like I just said, schooling, I noticed a lot of change in. It was harder for me to want to complete assignments, to have the motivation, especially because I pretty much lived on Twitter while everything was happening. So I was constantly seeing stuff about how the entire world was going through this pandemic while I was also trying to complete my schoolwork. The third question is, did technology help or hinder your management of these changes? I think technology helped me because I could still stay in contact with my friends and with my family. I don't live with my parents, so it was scary to be in another state and not know when I'd be able to see them again. But it was nice to be able to FaceTime them or call them and talk to them. Same with my friends who don't live in-state or who lived in-state and I just couldn't see because we were all quarantining at the time. The fourth question is, has technology continued to help or hinder you during the pandemic? I think technology has helped. I think I've just grown accustomed to doing school online. I was homeschooled when I was in high school, so I already had a feel for how to teach myself, essentially. And I picked up a new hobby. I'm learning how to speak a new language. Exclusively do that through apps like YouTube and Duolingo. So technology has helped in that aspect. It still continues to help with friends and family, talking to friends and family over Zoom, especially over the holidays. Though I have noticed, because I am a frequent Twitter user and Instagram user and whatever user, like most people, I spend a lot of time on my phone. Especially, and I think this especially started during the pandemic because there was nothing else to do, and because I was so anxious about what might happen or what was happening, that I was going to miss something. So, and when I wasn't asleep, I was on Twitter looking through the COVID updates or what was trending or my normal feed, just trying to see what, was going to pop up and hoping that nothing bad did. How much time would you say you spend on devices now that we're 9 months into this pandemic? I would say that I spend the majority of my day on some sort of device, whether that's because I'm in a Zoom call or because I am on Twitter or YouTube or wherever I am. I'm usually on a device, watching something, reading something, learning something. Sometimes I'm usually on a device these days. And compared to prior to the pandemic, I still was on my phone quite a bit, but definitely not nearly as much as I have been during the pandemic. What things do you think could be changed about whatever technology you use the most? I feel like most of the apps that I use, again, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube even, I think, has the endless scroll feature. So I often find myself just scrolling through apps for like hours. And I mean, obviously that's partly my doing as well. But I feel like if an app forces you to click over to another page, that might force you to look at what time it is and be like, oh, okay, I should probably get off of this app. So I think that would be a good element of redesign. I also use websites like Brightspace as well. Sometimes I struggles with navigating through that, or sometimes I click on something and it shows that I'm only, 50% through whatever the task is, and I'm not. I've finished the task. Or websites like Slack, where there are channels for different things. I find that a little bit difficult to navigate through because I'll get notifications for different channels and I'm not sure which channel things are getting posted to. So I think that could be redesigned where maybe there's like a menu where things can be put in pages or something like that. And I understand that channels kind of work that way, but just seeing a jumble of hashtags on the side of a page isn't really like a drop-down menu. It's, I think it would be better if it was more like a drop-down menu as opposed to a bunch of hashtags on the side of the page. As for the feedback that my brother gave, he said that he doesn't have very many issues with apps that he uses for school, but he does wish that his high school offered Zoom classes or Google Meets because he struggles with learning in a setting that is not in a classroom. So I'm not sure how many other high school kids are also in the same boat, but I can see where he's coming from, having asynchronous classes and having to teach yourself when it's not something you're familiar with or something that you're good at. You just simply don't learn that way. I think it would benefit everybody if they have the means to be able to Zoom while we're in this pandemic. I also feel like having some form of support from school, maybe, your mental health isn't doing so well in quarantine. I mean, my brother touched on it, I briefly touched on it. Not getting enough sleep, staying up until the wee hours of the morning, being anxious, being worried. A lot of us students could benefit from having someone to talk to, maybe not necessarily therapy, but some form of mental health guidance in a time like this, I think would be very beneficial for everybody who needs it, especially those who are more isolated in their homes and don't leave or don't want to leave. I think would be good.